Hey, this is Theo. Thanks for coming to check out Tools and Truths. So I put up some tool videos, so now it's time for a couple truth videos, I guess. Basically, what I'm thinking about today is my testimony of being a Christian and how it came about in an unusual way. So I pretty much was watching Wrangler Star, which is a guy on YouTube who does tools and outdoorsy stuff. And I had been watching some of his videos, thought he was an outdoorsy, cool guy. I wasn't Christian at the time, but I was raised that way. And then I ended up watching some of his videos and got hooked on him. And then he ended up telling a story about the prodigal son from the Bible, and that was the thing that swayed me. I thought, whoa, what the heck? How can this guy who's into such cool stuff also be a Christian? I thought Christians were all kind of lame. And then when I realized that someone I personally found interesting and inspiring could be a Christian, that kind of opened my mind to maybe it's not all what I thought, and it led me to check out the story of the prodigal son. Well, I tried to read the King James Version and it didn't go very well. It's dense for me to even read it out loud, and a lot of the words are kind of confusing. We'll try the NIV, New International Version Bible, Luke chapter 15, verse 10, verse 11, the parable of the lost son. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs." Keep in mind that these were Jewish people and pigs are unclean, so it's not something you really want to be hanging out with. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. So at this point he was so low that he was ready to steal from the pigs, meaning that he was feeling even less than a pig, which the pigs were an unclean thing, they don't eat pork, so he was in a bad spot. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him." So this is interesting because the father saw him from far off, and basically that means he never lost hope that he would come home, and he was always keeping an eye out for him. And this lost son is thinking, I'm not worthy to be in my father's house as his son, but maybe I could be a servant and at least I'd be eating and treated better than I am now. So he's got this message in his head, this script that he's gonna say about how he's not worthy and he's just wants to be a servant and he's not worthy to be a son. But his father sees him from far off and he runs to him, and before the kid can say anything, he wraps his arms around him and kisses him, and he's filled with compassion. The son said to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger." And from what I recall, the significance of the ring was kind of like a credit card back then, where if you had your family ring, it was like a credit card that you could use to get things. So he's basically saying he's going to take care of him. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. The fatted calf would be like an animal that they had been taking extra good care of, and so it would be really the best meat that they have on this farm. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him. So basically he's saying, I've been the good son, I didn't leave, I did everything right, and you haven't given me anything to celebrate with for doing the right thing. And now the son who did all the wrong things, every possible wrong thing, he took his inheritance early, which is basically saying, I don't want to be a part of this family anymore, and runs off and pays for prostitutes and is sleeping in the pig pen and taking care of the pigs and trying to steal food from the pigs. When he comes home, he gets a nice robe, he gets the family credit card basically, and he gets the best meal at the farm. So this other son is upset. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So that's the way it's written. The way that when I heard this story told from Wrangler Star, the way it affected me was I had been raised to be the good son, and I had tried to be the good son, and I knew the difference between right and wrong, and was raised Christian, went to church as a kid growing up, but didn't really pay attention. It didn't mean much to me, and I looked for my own way to make sense of things, and it didn't yield anything meaningful, and made poor decisions, and there was things that I wasn't proud of and things that I struggled with, and hit rock bottom a couple times, and the life that I thought I was going to live was not happening. At the age of 22, things after high school didn't go very well for a while, and then I basically was not proud of myself and felt like I had already failed even though I was young. I had gone past the point of redemption in my own mind, which what I experienced may not have been as rough as what you've experienced or what other people have experienced, or legally maybe the things I was doing weren't as bad as what you were doing, or vice versa. But it's not the point of the scorecard of who did worse things or who was further gone. The point is that I was lost, and I didn't think that I could really come back and have a second chance in a way. I felt like that was just the path I was on in a spiritual sense and in a life plan sense. And then after hearing this story where the kid did everything wrong, and when he decided to come home crawling on his knees and basically beg to not even be the son but just be the servant, because he knew that even a servant would be taken care of better than the situation that he was in. So he comes crawling home begging for something, and the father was waiting for him, looking for him, just waiting for him to come back. He sees him, and he doesn't wait for the son to come back, and he doesn't wait for him to come back and then say, all right, well, let's hear your apologies. You've got a lot of explaining to do. It's not what he does. He sees him. He was waiting for him. He runs into the field to meet him where he is. He meets him where he is, and before the son could even say anything, he wraps his arm around him, gives him a hug and a kiss, and just embraces him. When I heard this story, I'd never heard this side of God because it wasn't talked about very much in my limited Bible knowledge. But he runs to him, embraces him where he's at, and the son tries to explain himself and reason with the dad, but the dad just has so much love, and he gives him blessings and takes care of him and gives him gifts and throws a big party. And the one who had done everything right got upset because he says, I did everything right. But the point of it was that this son coming home was like his son had died and now he had come back and they had been given another chance. And all of this is Jesus describing the nature of God. And so when I heard that this is the nature of God, that if you are making mistakes, but you turn around and you come back to him, he meets you where you're at. He embraces you and doesn't need an explanation. He just wants to love you and take care of you. And it might not always be exactly as the story goes, but that's the nature of God, is that he's looking out for you. He's watching for you. He's waiting for you to come back to him, and it's not too late to turn around. It's not too late to come home. You're not going to be, with your personal relationship with God and with Christ, it's not going to be, oh, well, you've got some explaining to do. It's not that. With a church, with a family member, those are human beings. But with your personal relationship with God through prayer, if you allow him to take you back, if you make the step to go towards him again, or for the first time, and you come humbly and you are willing to admit the things that you've done to yourself, he's willing to forgive you, but you just have to ask. And when you do ask, he's going to be waiting there, meeting you where you're at, taking you in with open arms, and you're going to be okay. So I don't know if that is helpful for anyone, but for me, that was a life-changing story to hear, and I haven't heard it much other places, so I'm not necessarily qualified through anything other than I'm just reading you from the book and telling you my experience with it and what it did for me. And if there's anything else you'd like to hear, any questions, things you want to talk about, just drop a comment, and God bless. I hope this helps you.